Joseph grabbed his overnight bag and briefcase, making his way down the stone path toward the front door. He unlocked it quietly, hoping to catch them by surprise. The familiar scent of lavender candles filled the air, Alice's thing in the evenings. Upstairs, music played, but not the classical tune she usually favored. This time it was something modern with a heavy beat. He set his bags down in the entryway and called, "Alice?" No reply. The music kept thumping from above. Joseph climbed the stairs, his hand gliding along the smooth wooden banister. The door to the master bedroom was slightly open, a sliver of warm light spilling into the hallway. He pushed it open, ready to announce his return. But then he heard Alice's voice, only it wasn't meant for him. "He's so predictable," she said. Joseph froze, his foot halfway in the room. Alice sat on their bed, her back to him, phone pressed to her ear. She hadn't noticed him. Her laughter, light, carefree, but with a hint of something he didn't like, filled the space. "A walking bank account," Alice said. "Robert, baby, just wait. Once the divorce is final, I'll be free, and I'll have everything." The words hit him like a slap. His chest tightened, but he didn't make a sound. Years of controlling his emotions in business helped here. Instead of charging in, instead of demanding answers, he stayed still. He silently retreated into the shadows of the hallway. The closet door stood slightly ajar, and through the crack, Joseph could see Alice's reflection in the mirror. She was smiling, grinning, really, twisting a strand of hair around her finger. "Yeah, I've been planning this. The lawyer says I'll get half of everything, including his company shares." Another laugh. No, he doesn't have a clue. Too busy with his precious computers to notice what's going on right in front of him. Joseph's heart rate slowed. While most men might have crumbled, Joseph's mind sharpened. Every word Alice spoke was just another detail to file away. "The kids will adjust. They barely see him anyway. Always working. You're way more fun." That was a flat-out lie. Joseph always made time for the kids, homework, sports, you name it. Alice was the one who missed most of their events, often claiming some excuse or another. "Next week, I'll give him the papers. Then it's just a matter of time." Joseph silently stepped back and moved down the stairs. He grabbed his bags and left, making sure the door didn't click behind him. Once in the car, he sat still for a moment, collecting his thoughts. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was the cold calculation, the lies, the months of planning. She wasn't after just his money. She wanted the kids, too. He started the car and drove around aimlessly for an hour. When he came back, he'd act like everything was normal. He'd kiss Alice, hug the kids, and carry on as if nothing had changed. No one would know he'd heard it all. An hour later, he walked back in. "I'm home," he called. Alice appeared at the top of the stairs in a new outfit, her smile just as it had always been. But now Joseph saw the emptiness behind it. "Back early?" she asked, walking down to meet him. "I've finished sooner than I thought," he answered, accepting her kiss without feeling a thing. Caspian came running down the hall, jumping into Joseph's arms. "Miss me, bud?" "So much." "Mom said we could have pizza tonight. Can we?" Caspian asked. "Of course," Joseph replied, setting him down. Just then, Alina appeared. She was quieter than Caspian, but still happy to see him. "Hey, Dad. How was the trip?" "Productive," he said, giving her a hug. She was growing fast. Soon she'd be taller than Alice. "How's the science project going?" "Almost done. Can you look at it later?" Alina asked. "Of course," he answered. At dinner, Joseph kept the mask on. He laughed when it was called for, asked about their days, and didn't let on that he knew Alice had been checking her phone every few minutes. He watched her, the stranger pretending to be his wife, and wondered how he'd missed the signs before. After the kids were in bed, Joseph retreated to his office. He opened his laptop but didn't get to work. Instead, he started plotting. If Alice wanted a war, he was ready, but not the kind she was expecting. He started typing. Names, dates, accounts, assets. This wasn't about code anymore. This was about preparation. His fingers moved with purpose, each keystroke a step closer to his next move. No anger, no pain, just cold determination. For the next 7 days, Joseph kept up the act. He went to work, came home, helped the kids with homework, and slept beside Alice as though everything was normal. Meanwhile, he was preparing. He met with his lawyer under the pretense of updating his will, tracked household expenses, and shifted some assets to safer places. Then, on the 8th day, it came. Joseph sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee and reading the news on his tablet. Alina and Caspian were upstairs, Alina helping her brother with a school project. The house was quiet except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. Alice walked in wearing a silk blouse and tailored pants, makeup on point even though it was still early. She held a manila envelope. "We need to talk," she said, voice calm but tight. Joseph looked up, expression blank. She sat down across from him, placing the envelope on the table. She tapped it twice with a manicured finger. "This isn't working anymore, Joseph." "What's not working?" He sipped his coffee, eyeing her over the mug. "Us. This marriage." She slid the envelope towards him. "These are divorce papers. I've already talked to a lawyer." Joseph set his mug down slowly. He took the envelope, opened it, and skimmed the first page with a cool look. Inside, his mind was working, reading her moves. Sunday morning. Kids are home, but busy. Smart. She dressed up, probably expecting a fight. Tears, maybe. "How long?" he asked, keeping his tone even. "What?" she asked, thrown off by the question. "How long have you been planning this?" Alice shifted in her seat. "Does it matter? It's over. We both know that." Joseph nodded slowly. He pulled out a pen, the fancy one she'd given him on their 10th anniversary. He signed, initialed, and dated the papers without flinching. "There," he said, sliding the papers back to her. "Anything else?" Alice stared at him, clearly confused. "That's it? No fight? No begging?" Joseph leaned back in his chair. "You want out? You got it." Her face flickered with uncertainty before that familiar smirk returned. "I'll have my lawyer reach out about the kids and assets." "Of course." Joseph stood, grabbing his tablet and empty mug. "You're moving out tomorrow, right?" "Yeah," she said, hesitating. "You want me to tell the kids, or will you—" "We'll tell them together." Alice rose, clutching the envelope to her chest. "Tonight." Joseph nodded, then turned to the sink to rinse his mug. He heard her huff behind him, clearly thrown by his calmness. Her heels clicked on the hardwood as she left the kitchen. He gripped the sink, allowing himself a moment of raw feeling before locking it away again. The cold water was grounding. This was just the start. The real fight was about to begin. That night, they sat the kids down in the living room. Alina was curled up on the armchair, legs tucked under her, while Caspian sprawled out on the floor, both watching their parents closely. Alice spoke first. "Your dad and I have something to tell you." Caspian looked up from the carpet. "Are we getting a dog?" Joseph shook his head. "Nobody. Your mom and I are separating. She's moving out tomorrow." The room went dead silent. Alina's face went hard, her eyes shifting between her parents. Caspian frowned, confused. "Like a divorce?" he asked. "Yeah," Alice replied. "Sometimes adults realize they're better apart." "Why?" Caspian asked, voice shaking. "Did Dad do something wrong?" Alice opened her mouth, but Joseph cut in. "No one did anything wrong. People change. Your mom wants something different now, and that's okay." Joseph saw Alice's eyes flash with irritation. She wasn't expecting him to frame it like that. "We have to move," Alina asked, voice flat. "No," Joseph reassured her. "You'll stay here with me. Your mom will visit, and sometimes you'll stay with her. But I don't want Mom to leave." Caspian's face crumpled as he ran to Alice, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Please don't go." Alice stroked his hair, murmuring soft words, casting a glance at Joseph like Caspian's distress proved her point. Alina stayed still, watching with a calmness that felt off for her age. "I'm going to my room," she said, her voice flat. "Alina, wait," Alice began. "Let her go," Joseph interrupted. "She needs time." After Caspian calmed down and went to his room, Joseph and Alice were alone in the living room. "That went as well as it could," Alice said, straightening her blouse. "They'll adjust," Joseph replied, repeating her words from earlier, though she didn't realize it. Kids bounced back. "I'll be here tomorrow around noon to get my stuff." "Movers are coming," Joseph nodded. "I'll be at work. Take what's yours. The lawyer will handle the rest." Alice turned to head upstairs, but paused. "For what it's worth, I did love you once." Joseph met her gaze. "I know." She seemed to expect more, but when none came, she went upstairs. Joseph stayed in the living room, listening to the house. Upstairs, Caspian was crying. Alina's door was shut. Joseph briefly closed his eyes, then went to comfort his son. The next day, Joseph went to work like normal. He closed the door to his office, ignored calls, and dove into code. Numbers made sense, their patterns soothing. People, especially Alice, didn't. That night, when he came home, Alice's closet was empty, her vanity bare. All her things, perfume, jewelry, shoes, were gone. The photos and the kids' artwork were still on the walls, the remains of the life he'd built. Alina was at her desk, books spread out, pencil moving across paper. "You okay?" Joseph asked from the doorway. She didn't look up. "Fine. Want to talk about it?" "Not really." Her pencil paused. "Is she living with him?" Joseph froze. "With who?" Alina finally looked up, her eyes meeting his directly. "Robert, from the gym. The guy she's always texting." Joseph felt a cold clarity wash over him. "You knew?" "Yeah, I'm not dumb. She's not exactly hiding it." Alina went back to her homework. "You deserve better." Joseph crossed the room and placed a hand on her shoulder. She leaned into the touch, just a little, the only sign she wasn't as okay as she seemed. "We'll be fine," he promised. "I know," she said, giving him a small smile. "You always have a plan." Later, after checking on Caspian, who'd cried himself to sleep, Joseph went back to his office. He opened a new document and started typing, focusing on one thing. Robert Cole, gym owner, around 35. Affair with Alice. How long? Still unclear. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And Joseph was damn good at building things. 2 weeks passed in a new routine. Joseph dropped the kids off at school, picked them up after, cooked, helped with homework, and tucked Caspian in at night. Alice called every now and then, her voice fake sweet through the phone. On weekends, she'd take them out, amusement parks, movies, shopping, returning them with bags of new toys and clothes. Trying to buy their love, Joseph thought. But he kept his mouth shut. Meanwhile, he kept digging. He joined Robert's gym, paid for a year up front. The place was fancy, with glass walls and shiny equipment. Robert was there a lot, chatting up the clients. Joseph kept his distance at first, just blending in. He came early, when it was quiet. He observed, waited. On day 3, he struck up a conversation with the receptionist. "Great place," he said, signing in. "Been open long?" "About 5 years," she answered. "Robert built it from scratch. Big success." "Sounds like it. He must be a smart guy." She leaned in a little. "Between you and me, I think he had help. His girlfriend put in some cash. She's got money." Joseph raised an eyebrow. "Lucky guy. They've been together almost 3 years now." 3 years. The words hit Joseph like a hammer. Alina was 11 then. Caspian was 7. 3 years of lies. "You know her?" he asked, keeping it casual. "Alice, sure. She comes in all the time. Gorgeous woman. Always looks perfect." Joseph nodded, keeping his face blank. "Thanks for the info. Have a good one." He walked away, his mind racing. 3 years wasn't just an affair, it was a whole second life. In the next week, Joseph got more pieces of the puzzle. He befriended a trainer who liked to gossip, eavesdropped in the locker room, and checked social media. Alice kept her profiles clean, but Robert wasn't so careful. There were pictures of them together, restaurants, parties, even a beach trip, all while Alice had claimed to be somewhere else. But Robert wasn't the only one. One offhand comment from the trainer sent Joseph digging deeper. Before Robert, Alice was with that tech investor. What was his name? Soon Joseph found out about at least 2 other affairs, one with a businessman who traveled a lot, and another with a local artist. Alice had told him she was going to cultural events. Joseph documented everything. Names, dates, locations. He didn't confront Alice yet. Not until he had more. He was building his case. 3 weeks after the divorce papers were signed, something new hit Joseph. An idea that came to him in the middle of the night. A suspicion that had been growing, but hadn't fully formed. The next morning, he called in sick to work. After dropping the kids off, he drove across town to a medical clinic. "I need paternity tests," he said to the receptionist. "For 2 kids." She handed him the forms without a blink. "You'll need DNA from all parties." Joseph nodded. "I've got access to their toothbrushes. That work?" "That's fine." "And the mother?" "I don't need her, just the kids." The woman softened a bit. "Results take about a week." "Rush it," Joseph said, pulling out his credit card. "Please." 5 days later, an email hit his secure inbox. Joseph sat in his office, staring at the screen. He knew this could change everything. He clicked. The medical terms were dense, but the conclusion was clear: 0% probability of paternity for both kids. Joseph leaned back, the room spinning. Neither Alina nor Caspian was his biological child. 14 years of fatherhood, all a lie. 10 years, also a lie. He stood up, pacing the room. He couldn't process it. The kids he raised, loved, taught, they weren't his. Their real fathers could be anyone, maybe even men Alice never told him about. Did it matter? Joseph stopped moving. Did it change how he felt about them? Did it change the years of bedtime stories, teaching Alina to code, cheering for Caspian at soccer? No, it didn't. They were still his kids. But Alice had stolen something precious, the truth. She'd let him think they were his flesh and blood. That night, as he helped Caspian with math and listened to Alina talk about her day, Joseph watched them closely. He searched their faces for signs, wondering if he'd missed something all these years. But all he saw was the kids he loved. He wouldn't tell them. Not now. Maybe never. This was his burden to bear. But Alice would know that he knew, and she would pay for every lie. Joseph tucked the paternity results into an envelope and slipped it into his briefcase. "Let the games begin," he whispered to the empty room. The opulence of the place was suffocating. White tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, everything too polished, too perfect. A facade for the fake smiles, the fake happiness inside. Joseph stood at the bar, eyes locked on Alice and Robert in the corner. Her laugh rang out, but it was hollow. Robert's hand rested possessively on hers, a clear display of ownership. She wore a new dress, one that screamed expensive, and Robert had his arm around her like he owned her. The perfect little power couple. Joseph straightened his tie, adjusted the envelope in his hand. This wasn't just any envelope. It was the weapon he'd been sharpening for months. A well-timed strike. He'd been waiting for this moment. His steps were deliberate, slow, and silent on the plush carpet as he approached their table. Alice noticed him first. The color drained from her face as her laughter cut off. Robert's eyes narrowed when he saw Joseph, his grin turning smug, almost satisfied, like he knew this moment was inevitable. But he couldn't hide the twitch of annoyance that followed. Joseph stood in front of them, casual, too calm. He locked eyes with Alice first, his voice low but dripping with cold politeness. "Hello, Alice." She tried to mask the shock, straightening in her chair. "Joseph," she forced out, her voice too sweet, too fake. What a surprise. "No surprise at all," Joseph replied smoothly, his gaze shifting to Robert. "So this is Robert, the great Robert. I've heard all about you." Robert's hand tightened around Alice's wrist, the muscles in his jaw flexing. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with forced diplomacy. "Look, man, I know this must be uncomfortable, but—" Joseph cut him off with a raised hand. "No, it's not uncomfortable." His eyes bored into Robert. "In fact, I came here to congratulate you both." Alice blinked, her face faltering in confusion. "Congratulate us?" she asked cautiously. "On your freedom," Joseph said, his smile thin and sharp. He slammed the envelope down between them, a subtle but deliberate impact. "A little gift to mark the occasion." Alice looked from Robert to Joseph, her lips twisting into something between a smirk and a wince. "That's civil of you." "Closure," Joseph said, stepping back. "I believe in it." He gave them one last look before turning to leave, his pace measured. As he moved toward the coat check, he could feel the tension crawling up his spine. Every step he took was deliberate, a perfect show of control. Joseph stopped just out of their line of sight and turned, watching the drama unfold. Alice opened the envelope slowly, as though unsure of what she was about to face. But he could see the exact moment when the realization hit her. Her hand trembled, the color drained from her face, and she passed the papers to Robert, who didn't waste any time skimming the contents. The atmosphere in the room shifted. The low murmur of the diners quieted, eyes snapping toward them. Robert's face darkened, his eyes narrowing in disgust, and then he stood up like a man who was just slapped. His voice was a sharp, guttural bark, rising above the quiet. "You told me they were his!" he spat, his words slicing through the air. "You told me they were his!" Alice flinched, her face pale and shocked. "I thought they were," she stammered, fumbling for something to hold on to, but it was too late. Joseph stepped back into the fray, this time closer, his presence too heavy to ignore. His voice was a whisper, but it cut like a knife. "No," he said, leaning in. You knew, or at least suspected." You knew exactly what you were doing. And now you get to feel it. He let the words hang in the air, thick with venom. The truth comes out. The lies catch up to you. Everything you thought you had is slipping through your fingers. The entire room had fallen into silence. Even the staff stood frozen, unsure whether to step in or stay out of it. Alice, clutching the papers to her chest like a shield, hissed, "You can't prove anything. This could be fake." Joseph didn't even blink. "The lab's reputable," he said, his smile chilling. "Check them if you want, but something tells me you already know the truth." He leaned in even closer, practically tasting the fear in the air. "The timing is perfect, isn't it? Your little fling with the tech investor, around the time Alina was conceived. And that artist, Caspian's little pet project." Robert's face twisted into a snarl of betrayal. He glared at Alice, his fist clenching. "You said I was the only one," he yelled, venom dripping from each word. "You said it was just me before this piece of crap." He jabbed a thumb in Joseph's direction. "Shut the F up, Robert," Alice muttered, but it was too late. Robert was already on his feet, rage boiling over. He threw his napkin down onto the table with enough force to make a sound. "We're done!" he spat, the words coming out like an explosion. "Don't even bother." Joseph tilted his head, savoring the moment. "The divorce settlement," he began, his voice too smooth, like the honey before the knife. "That'll be interesting, won't it?" Robert shot him a glare that could burn through steel, but didn't say a word as he stormed off. Joseph's gaze lingered on Alice. He watched her face twist in the mess of regret, disbelief, and fear. "Good luck with everything," he called to them, his voice mockingly sweet. He walked out without looking back, Alice's desperate voice trailing behind him. Outside, the cool night air hit his face, and for the first time since learning about Alice's betrayal, Joseph felt some satisfaction. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a text from his lawyer. Everything filed. Court date next week. Joseph quickly typed back. Proceed as planned. He walked to his car, the city lights blurring around him. Phase 1 complete. Now for Phase 2. The next morning, Joseph sat at the kitchen table with Alina and Caspian. Their breakfast was barely touched. He'd made their favorite, blueberry pancakes for Caspian, avocado toast for Alina, but the tension was thick. "Your mom called," Joseph said after a long silence. "She won't be taking you this weekend," Caspian poked at his pancakes. "Is she sick?" "Nobody. She's dealing with some stuff." Alina shot him a sharp look. "What did you do?" Joseph met her gaze steadily. "What makes you think I did anything?" "Because Mom's been acting weird more than usual, and now you're all quiet and calm like when you're fixing a big problem." Alina put her fork down. "So what happened?" Joseph thought before speaking. "Your mom and I are handling the divorce in our own ways. Mine's a little more strategic than she thought." "So you're getting back at her," Alina said flatly. "No, I'm making sure things are fair." "It's about Robert, isn't it?" Caspian chimed in. Joseph and Alina both stared at him. "You know about Robert?" Joseph asked, surprised. Caspian shrugged. "Mom's always on the phone with him. One time we met him for ice cream. He's got tattoos." Joseph held back his anger and kept his voice steady. "Yeah, it's about Robert and some other things between your mom and me. But I don't want you two worrying about grown-up problems." "We're not babies, Dad," Alina said, annoyed. "I know," Joseph replied, "but this is between your mom and me." Joseph stood up, grabbing his empty coffee mug. "Finish up. School bus comes in 20?" Joseph sat at his desk, the soft hum of city noise creeping through the window. He had just finished going over some documents when the phone buzzed. He saw Alice's name flash across the screen, but with a quiet scoff, he ignored it. Let it go to voicemail. This was her mess to clean up, not his. When the voicemail notification pinged, Joseph tapped the screen and put the phone to his ear. He leaned back in his chair, half expecting what was coming. Her voice was raw, venomous. "You fool," Alice hissed, the words dripping with fury. "You think you're so damn clever. Robert won't even look at me now. Is that what you wanted? To ruin everything?" She took a breath, but there was no softening. "Call me back. We need to talk." Joseph let the phone fall from his ear, shaking his head as he tapped the screen to delete the message. He didn't need to hear her crying. She had made her bed, now she could lie in it. His lawyer had been clear, no more drama, minimal contact, and that's exactly what he planned to stick to. But just as the evening fell into its usual monotony, another call came through, this time an unknown number. Joseph was tired, but something nagged at him. Against his better judgment, he picked up the phone. "Speaking," he answered flatly, not bothering with pleasantries. "This is Robert Cole," came the strained voice on the other end. "We need to talk." Joseph stood up, closing his office door behind him to make sure he had some privacy. "I'm listening." "Look, I don't know what the hell you and Alice are playing at, but I want out. Are the kids mine?" Joseph let the silence hang for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "I don't know. The tests confirm they're not mine. You'll need your own tests if you want answers on that front." There was a pause on the other end, then a deep, frustrated sigh. "Jesus, what a freaking mess." "Indeed," Joseph said, the word almost a chuckle in the back of his throat. "Not sure why you're so surprised." "I didn't know about the other guy," Robert continued, his voice suddenly more defensive but tired. "Or that the kids might not be yours. Alice said you two were already emotionally separated, whatever the hell that means." Joseph didn't respond at first. He just let Robert keep talking, savoring the control. The distance between them now so vast it felt almost suffocating. "I'm backing off," Robert said eventually, his tone clipped. "Whatever the hell you two have going on, I don't want in. I've got my own crap to deal with." "Problems, huh?" Joseph raised an eyebrow, already knowing where this was going but needing to hear it. "What kind of problems?" "Financial audit, some questions about gym investors. Nothing major, but I don't need more complications," Robert explained, voice edged with tension. Joseph smiled to himself, leaning back in his chair. The anonymous tip had done its job. "Hope it works out for you." "Yeah," Robert said, the frustration clear in his voice. "Just wanted you to know I'm not the enemy here. I'm out." Joseph paused, his eyes narrowing just a touch. Noted. The call ended and Joseph leaned back in his chair. Robert was pulling away from Alice faster than expected, which worked out just fine. Without his support, Alice would be more vulnerable. The next phase could begin. At his lawyer's office the next day, Joseph sat across from Cameron Wilson, overlooking Seattle through rain-streaked windows. "Everything is proceeding as planned," Cameron said, sliding a folder across the table. "Judge Harmon is fair but tough on contracts. The paternity fraud strengthens our case." Joseph skimmed the papers. "And the financials? Airtight. The prenup had clear infidelity clauses. Plus, the divorce agreement she signed without proper review. She's basically forfeited any claim to your assets. We can even countersue for damages." Joseph looked up from the papers. "I don't want to bankrupt her. I just want to make sure she doesn't profit off her lies." Cameron nodded. "Still playing it soft, huh? All right, but be ready. Her lawyer wants a meeting. They'll try to renegotiate. Let them try." 2 days later, Joseph sat across from Alice and her lawyer, Veronica Tate, in the same conference room. Alice looked worse than usual, the strain showing. "This agreement is unconscionable," Veronica said, tapping the divorce papers with her nail. "My client signed under duress, without legal counsel." Cameron raised an eyebrow. "She had 2 weeks to review the papers and consult a lawyer. She signed it knowing what she was doing. She was emotionally vulnerable." "She's been planning this for months," Joseph interrupted calmly. "Phone records show calls to divorce lawyers dating back almost a year. Hardly the actions of someone caught off guard." Alice's eyes widened. "You checked my phone?" "I checked everything, Alice. The affairs, the planning, the lies, it's all documented." Veronica put a hand on Alice's arm. "Let's stay on track, mister. Hayes, be reasonable. You're trying to leave my client with nothing." "Not nothing, just nothing that's mine." Joseph leaned in. "She keeps what she brought into the marriage, plus any assets in her name. Given her spending habits, that's quite a bit. The kids aren't biologically mine, as you know, but I'm still offering full support for them and asking for primary custody. That seems fair." Alice's calm broke. "You can't do this to me. The house, the car, my lifestyle. You can't just take it all." "I'm not taking anything. I'm just not giving you what isn't yours." Joseph met her eyes. "You gambled, Alice. You lost." "This is revenge," she spat. "No," Joseph replied coldly. "This is a consequence." The meeting ended in a stalemate, but Joseph knew the advantage was his. The court date was next week. That weekend, while the children were at a previously arranged sleepover with friends, Joseph changed the locks on the house. He also contacted the banks, credit card companies, and investment firms, ensuring Alice's access to joint accounts was restricted to minimum maintenance amounts, as permitted by the divorce filing. Monday morning. The phone buzzed. The first call from Alice came in at 8 a.m. He didn't answer. Her message was frantic. "You've frozen the accounts. How am I supposed to live? The hotel's on my A for payment." He let it go to voicemail, then deleted it. Second call. Same crap. "The cards aren't working. Did you cancel them? You can't do this." He ignored it. Wednesday afternoon. Her voice finally shifted, desperate, soft. "Joseph, please. We need to be adults about this. Can we talk?" He didn't call back. The court date was Thursday. The courthouse loomed in the gray Seattle sky as Joseph and Cameron walked through security to the courtroom. Alice and her lawyer, Veronica, were already there. Alice looked thinner, her hair pulled back tight in a navy suit. She looked like she'd been through a lot. Judge Harmon, in her 60s, called the court to order. Cameron outlined Alice's affairs, the paternity fraud, and the legal documents she'd signed. Veronica tried to paint Alice as a sufferer, but the evidence Cameron had was solid. Judge Harmon spoke firmly. "Mrs. Hayes, did you read the divorce agreement before signing it?" Alice hesitated. "I skimmed it. I was upset." "Did Mr. Hayes prevent you from seeking legal counsel?" "No." "But did you understand the terms?" "Yeah, but I didn't realize—" "Mrs. Hayes," the judge interrupted. "The court can't protect people from their bad decisions. The agreements are binding, the infidelity clauses are enforceable, and the paternity fraud is disturbing." Alice paled. "This court upholds the divorce terms. Mrs. Hayes retains assets in her name. Mr. Hayes retains all other marital assets, including the family home. Child support will be determined after further paternity testing if Mrs. Hayes wants to pursue it." The gavel fell. Alice sat stunned, and Veronica whispered in her ear. Joseph felt no joy, just cold certainty. Outside, Alice grabbed his arm. "You've ruined me," she hissed, tears welling up. "I have nothing." Joseph pulled her hand off. "You've got exactly what you came in with, your freedom. Where am I supposed to go? What about the kids?" Joseph shrugged. "Try Robert. Oh, wait, he's got his own mess." She paused, understanding dawning. "You did that too? The audit?" Joseph smiled. "Have a good day, Alice." He walked away, leaving her standing there. Joseph's phone rang. He saw Robert Cole flashing on the screen. He didn't hesitate. "Robert," Joseph answered, his voice cold. Robert's growl came through the phone, sharp and full of anger. "You called a financial board on me. What the hell, man?" Joseph's tone didn't shift. "I don't know what you're talking about." "They froze my accounts, you piece of crap. I can't get to my own damn money," Robert roared. Joseph leaned back, a smirk on his face. Tough break. Almost as tough as finding out the kids aren't yours. There was a long, pregnant silence, and Joseph could practically hear Robert's blood boiling. Finally, Robert spoke again, his voice tight with barely contained rage. "She's staying at my place." "You know that?" Joseph's response was dismissive, almost bored. "Yeah, figured." Robert's voice grew more clipped. "I can't keep covering her A with this audit. She's got to go. I'm done with this crap." Joseph paused, savoring the moment. "Your mess, your problem." "Yeah, well, just thought you should know," Robert muttered, arrogance thick in his voice before hanging up abruptly. Joseph sat in his quiet living room, everything going as planned. Alice broke. Robert couldn't help her. Yet, it didn't feel like a win. He poured a glass of whiskey and stared out at the rain-soaked skyline. Tomorrow, he'd pick up the kids. Life would go on. The next evening, Joseph knocked on Alina's door. "Got a minute?" he asked. She nodded, putting her book down. "What's up?" Joseph sat on her bed. "I wanted to talk about your mom." Alina's face shut down. "What about her?" "She's having a tough time. Financial stuff from court." Alina didn't look up. "I'm not stupid, Dad. I know how to use the internet." Joseph smiled. "You're too smart for your own good. So you took all the money?" "Not all of it, just what was mine." Alina gave him a hard look. "Is this where I'm supposed to feel sorry for her?" "No," Joseph said. "I just want to know how you're feeling about this." She picked at her bedspread. She called, crying. She said she might have to leave to get back on her feet. Asked if I'd go with her. Joseph's heart skipped. "And what did you say?" "I told her no." Alina's eyes were hard. "She lied to you. She lied to us. She doesn't deserve us." Joseph reached out, taking her hand. Alina, she's still your mother. A mother doesn't do what she did. Alina pulled away. She called me ungrateful, said I should be on her side. But you're the one who's always been there. Joseph's heart warmed, though it hurt. Love isn't something you earn, it just is. You can be mad, but nothing, Alina cut in. I made my choice. She picked up her book. I'm staying with you, Joseph nodded. I'll call you when dinner's ready. Caspian was harder to talk to. At 10, he felt everything more deeply. Joseph found him playing video games in the den. Hey, buddy, pause it for a sec, Joseph said. Caspian groaned, but paused. What? Your mom might come by tomorrow to talk. Caspian's face lit up, then fell. Is she taking us this weekend? No, not this time. She's dealing with some stuff. Because you took all our money? Joseph blinked. Who said that? Mom texted. Said you're being mean and not letting her have money for a place. Joseph sat down. That's not exactly it. Your mom and I made an agreement. The judge said we have to stick to it. So she's poor now? Not poor, just not as comfortable. Caspian turned to him. Is it because she has a boyfriend? It's complicated. Grown-ups say that when they don't want to explain. He crossed his arms. I'm not a baby. Joseph smiled a little. No, you're not. Your mom made choices that hurt us. Now she has less money. Will she be okay? Yeah, she'll have to work more or live smaller, but she'll be fine. Caspian nodded. Can I still see her? Of course. She's still your mom. Do you still love her? Joseph hesitated. Did he? Anger, betrayal. He had those. But love? That died when he heard her plotting to take everything, including the kids he thought were his. I care about her as your mom, Joseph said carefully. But sometimes grown-ups stop being in love. Doesn't mean we stop caring. Caspian seemed to accept it. Can I play now? 5 more minutes, then homework, Dad. Yes, I'm glad I'm staying with you. Joseph ruffled his hair, his throat tight. Me too, buddy. The next morning, the doorbell rang early. Joseph opened it to find Alice. She looked different. No makeup, just jeans and a blouse, her hair pulled back. Alice, he said flatly, the kids are still asleep. I'm not here for them. Not yet. She shifted nervously. Can I come in? Joseph stepped aside. Sure. Alice walked in and looked around. You haven't changed anything. The kids need stability. She nodded, and they went to the kitchen. Coffee? He asked. No, thanks. She sat at the counter, hands tight in her lap. I need to talk about the kids. Joseph leaned on the counter. What about them? Robert kicked me out, she said quickly. I have nowhere to go. My credit cards are maxed. Savings are gone. I can't afford an apartment. I need help, Joseph. Joseph took a slow sip of coffee. What are you asking for? Money, a loan. Just until I get back on my feet. She looked up, desperation in her eyes. For the kids. The court was clear about the financials, Joseph said. Damn the court, she snapped. Then her voice softened, glancing at the stairs. This is about family, not legalities. The family you wanted to leave, for Robert. For others before him? Alice flinched. I made mistakes, but I'm still their mother. Joseph set his mug down. You are. I'll pay for a modest apartment for 6 months, not for you, but so the kids have somewhere to stay when they visit. Relief spread across her face. Thank you. Thank you so much. With conditions, Joseph added. The lease is in my name. You get a job, any job, to cover food and utilities. You stick to the visitation schedule. Her relief faded a bit. You don't trust me, do you? Would you, in my position? Alice looked away. No, I guess not. She stood. Can I see them now? They'll be up soon. You can wait in the living room. Alice paused before leaving. For what it's worth. I am sorry, not just for getting caught, for everything. Joseph didn't respond. Her apology was meaningless compared to her actions. Alina came downstairs first. When she saw Alice, her face hardened. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. Alice stepped forward with arms outstretched. Baby, I've missed you. Alina stepped back. Really? You couldn't even call all week. I've been dealing with some stuff. Dad told us you're broke because you lied and cheated, Alina said flatly. Alice shot Joseph a look. It's more complicated than that. No, it's not, Alina said. You had affairs. You lied. You wanted Dad's money. Now you can't. And simple. Alina, please, I'm still your mother. Are you? Because mothers don't do what you did. Alina crossed her arms. I don't want to go with you this weekend, or any weekend. Alice went pale. You don't mean that. I do. Dad didn't turn me against you. I have eyes. I heard you on the phone with Robert laughing about Dad, calling him a walking bank account. Alice couldn't respond. I hate you, Alina whispered, voice quiet but cutting. I don't want to see you again. She turned and ran upstairs, slamming her door. Alice stood frozen, tears rolling down her face. Joseph spoke softly. She doesn't mean it. She's hurt. She'll come around. Alice wiped her eyes. Will she? Or will you make sure she doesn't? I've never spoken badly about you to the kids, and I never will. You don't have to. Your actions speak for you. Alice turned to leave. Tell Caspian I came by. I'll call later about the apartment. Joseph nodded. I'll have the realtor contact you. Alice paused at the door. You destroyed me, Joseph, completely. Are you satisfied now? Joseph met her gaze. This isn't about satisfaction. It's about consequences. For what? Wanting more than being a software engineer's wife? For betrayal. For lies. For using me for 15 years while sleeping with other men, Joseph said, stepping closer. For making me believe those kids were mine. Alice looked away. I didn't know. Not for sure. But you suspected and said nothing. Joseph opened the door. Goodbye, Alice. She left without another word, shoulders hunched against the morning chill. The custody hearing was quick. With the paternity test and Alice's situation, the judge gave Joseph primary custody and Alice weekend visits. Alina, however, refused to see her. As they left the courthouse, Joseph saw Alice standing by the steps looking small and defeated. For a second, he almost felt bad for her. Then he remembered her plotting to take everything from him. Let's go home, he said to Alina and Caspian. 6 months had passed since the divorce. Joseph cooked dinner while Alina set the table and Caspian fed their new puppy. Can Rex have some chicken? Caspian asked. Just a small piece, Joseph replied, handing him the treat. Don't make it a habit. The doorbell rang, cutting through the quiet of the kitchen. Joseph, lost in his cooking, didn't bother to look up. He wasn't expecting anyone. I'll get it, Alina said, setting the plate down with a soft clink of porcelain. Joseph kept stirring, half listening, letting the faint sound of conversation drift in and out. But then he heard Alina's voice, sharp, tense, something in it that made him pause. What the hell are you doing here? Alice's voice followed, strained. I need to see your father, please. Joseph turned the stove off. He wasn't in the mood for this. Caspian, take Rex upstairs. Caspian didn't hesitate, just nodded and disappeared. Joseph took his time moving towards the entryway, a flicker of curiosity running through him. When he saw Alice, soaking wet, hair plastered to her head, it all clicked. It's raining, Alice muttered, her voice weak. Joseph raised an eyebrow. You're soaked. I walked here from the bus stop. Are you serious? Joseph snapped, his voice cutting through the air. What, no umbrella? Just decided to walk through the damn storm? She didn't reply right away, her eyes darting around, looking for something in the air. No, she finally said. But I lost my job. The cafe shut down. Joseph's jaw tightened, his irritation building. So what's the real story here? Alice wiped a tear from her cheek, the bitterness in her laugh sharp enough to make him flinch. I've been applying everywhere. You think anyone wants to hire a woman with 15 years of nothing but housework on her resume? Joseph said nothing. The words hung there, too heavy to push aside. The lease is up next week, Alice continued, her voice quieter now, breaking. I can't afford to renew it. Please let me see them. Joseph didn't move, didn't blink. They got a schedule. You know the rules. Alice's voice cracked. Not anymore. Alina won't even talk to me. And Caspian? He's barely a damn ghost in my life now. I'm losing them, Joseph. For a moment, Joseph said nothing, letting the silence stretch between them like a rope ready to snap. Finally, he crossed his arms, his tone cold, the steel in his words unmistakable. What do you expect me to do? You're not getting a pity party out of me. Her face crumbled, tears welling up in her eyes. I've made mistakes, but I'm asking for one thing, one damn chance to fix it. Can't you do that, please? Joseph sighed, rubbing the back of his neck, his voice colder than the room. You made your bed, Alice. Now you lie in it. Alice stepped closer, desperation pushing her forward. I can't do this anymore, Joseph. Not alone. Not with nothing. Joseph's face tightened. His gaze was sharp, like a blade. This isn't a charity case. I've done my part. You want forgiveness? You think I owe you that? I don't. Alice winced at the words, like a slap across the face, but she didn't back down. Her voice shook, barely above a whisper. You're loving this, aren't you? Watching me fall apart. Joseph's eyes narrowed. No, I'm not loving it. I'm just done being your damn lifeline. You think I can fix everything for you? I'm not your knight in shining armor, Alice. The room went still for a moment. Then Joseph moved, not looking at her as he stepped toward the door. It's dinner time. The kids are waiting. I'm done here. Alice stood there, unmoving, her face pale, eyes hollow. I got nowhere to go. No job. No money. What the hell am I supposed to do? His voice hardened like stone. Figure it out. Talk to Robert or one of your other boyfriends. I'm not your solution. Alice flinched, the words cutting through her like glass. You're right. I deserved that. But please help me. Joseph studied her, eyes cold, unreadable. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then just as she thought he'd shut her out for good, he said, I'll give you another month. After that, you're on your own. The relief on her face was immediate. Her shoulders slumping like a weight had been lifted. Thank you, she breathed, her voice a soft exhale of gratitude. Joseph didn't soften. Don't thank me. Use the time wisely. He opened the door, his back to her, the finality of his words hanging heavy in the air. Goodbye, Alice. She stood there a moment before walking into the rain. Joseph closed the door behind her and went back to his family. That night, after the kids were in bed, Joseph sat in his office, staring out the rain-soaked window. The talk with Alice had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. Not because he felt guilty, he didn't, but because seeing her beg didn't bring him any satisfaction. The revenge had worked, yet the victory felt empty. His phone buzzed with a text from Serafina Grant, the journalist he'd met at a tech conference. Still on for coffee tomorrow? Joseph smiled, looking forward to it. He set the phone down, his mind shifting to the future. Alice wasn't his concern anymore. She made her choices. Now she'd live with them, just like he was living with his. Dad, have you seen my blue notebook? Alina called from upstairs. Check the living room bookshelf. You were reading there yesterday. A moment of silence, then, found it. Thanks. 8 months had passed since Alice's wet visit. 8 months of settling into a new routine, of healing. The house felt different, lighter. Joseph had redecorated parts of it with the kids' input, making it feel fresh, unburdened by the past. Rex, their golden retriever, bounded into the kitchen. Joseph scratched behind his ears. No treats before breakfast. Dad, can Rex come to my soccer game this weekend? Caspian asked, slinging his backpack over one shoulder. If the field allows dogs, sure. Joseph closed his laptop. Ready for school? Almost. Did Mom call about Saturday? She texted, said she's looking forward to seeing you. Alice had found steady work at an insurance company. The pay wasn't great, but it allowed her to rent a small apartment. Caspian resumed visits, but Alina still refused. Cool. I want to show her my science project. She'll think the robot arm is awesome. I'm sure she will. Joseph checked his watch. Bus comes in 10 minutes. Better grab your lunch. Caspian rushed to grab it. Alina came down the stairs, notebook in hand, headphones around her neck. At 15, she had an air of seriousness. Ready? Joseph asked. She nodded, slipping the notebook into her bag. Advanced Coding Club meets today. I might be late. Text me when you're done. I'll pick you up. Actually, Lisa's mom offered to drive me home. We're working on our project together, if that's okay. Joseph smiled. Of course. Have fun. Just be home for dinner. Serafina's coming over. Alina smiled back. I like her. She's smart. Yes, she is. Joseph felt warmth in his chest at his daughter's approval. Serafina had become more than a friend over time. She was sharp, kind, someone Joseph had grown to admire. She promised to help me with my investigative project, Alina said, zipping her bag. She knows all the best research tricks. I'm sure she'll be happy to help. Joseph handed her a lunch bag. Bus, go. The kids rushed out. Rex followed them to the door before Joseph called him back. He watched them join the neighborhood kids at the bus stop, Alina talking with Lisa, Caspian roughhousing with a boy his age. Normal. Healing. His phone buzzed again. Looking forward to tonight. Need me to bring anything? Serafina had texted. Just yourself. Kids are excited to see you too, Joseph replied. He went through his morning routine, letting Rex out, cleaning up breakfast, preparing for his remote workday. His company had been flexible with his hours, and he worked from home 3 days a week. His desk was surrounded by family photos and kids' artwork. He opened his laptop, diving into his latest project, designing a complex security system for a major bank. He enjoyed the challenge, finding satisfaction in solving problems. Hours passed in silence until his phone buzzed again. It was a number he recognized, but I hadn't heard from in weeks. Need to talk. Important. Please call when you can. Joseph frowned. Alice rarely contacted him directly anymore. She usually used the co-parenting app for communication about the kids. He debated ignoring it, but decided against it. He called. Alice, he said when she picked up, what's the important matter? Joseph, thanks for calling back. Her voice was steadier than it had been. I've been offered a job. A good one. With an international insurance company. A pause. In Chicago. Joseph took it in. When would you start? Next month, if I accept. It's a big raise. A real shot at advancement. And you're calling because of the kids, Alice said, her voice softer. I want them to visit me in Chicago. Regular visits. I know the custody agreement says they stay in Seattle, but I'm asking for your cooperation in arranging travel. Joseph thought it over. Alice, moving to Chicago would mean less frequent visits, but also a clean break for everyone. Distance that might help us heal. Caspian will be disappointed, he added finally. I know, but I can fly back regularly, and during school breaks they could visit me, if you're okay with it. Alice's voice was calm. No manipulation this time. And Alina? Joseph asked. I don't expect her to want to visit, but the door will always be open. Joseph nodded, though she couldn't see it. Let me think about it. Talk to the kids. If they're open to it, I won't stand in the way. Thank you. Relief softened her voice. I've been trying, Joseph, to rebuild, to be better. I know. She'd kept sober, held a job, and never missed a visitation. Small steps, but real ones. There's one more thing, she said. I got a letter from Robert. Joseph tensed. What did he want? To apologize. He's in Arizona now. Getting caught in that audit was a wake-up call. He's working as a personal trainer. Staying clean. Good for him. He mentioned you. Said you were right to do what you did. That we deserved it. Alice paused. He wasn't wrong. Joseph didn't know how to respond to that. Anyway, just wanted you to know about Chicago. About everything, her voice softened. I'm trying to make amends, not to win you back, just to be someone the kids might respect again someday. Joseph paused. I hope you succeed. He meant it, not for her, but for the kids who still carried a piece of her. I'll let you know when I've decided about the job, she said. Thanks for hearing me out. After the call, Joseph sat for a moment processing. Alice in Chicago. Space to heal. Maybe that was what they all needed. The day flew by with work and chores. By dinner time, the smell of roasting chicken filled the house. Alina was first home, excited about her project. Caspian came in next, covered in mud from soccer practice, grinning like the kid he was. The doorbell rang just as Joseph was setting the table. I'll get it, Caspian yelled, racing to the door, Rex right behind him. Serafina stepped in, greeting both boy and dog. She was tall, fit, with curly dark hair and sharp eyes. She held a bakery box in one hand, fending off Rex's jumps with the other. Easy, buddy, she laughed, scratching Rex's head. Cake is for after dinner. You brought cake? Caspian asked, eyes wide. Chocolate raspberry? From that bakery you like? She handed the box to Joseph, and he kissed her quickly, smiling. Hi. Hi yourself, he said, his smile warm. Alina appeared in the doorway. You're still going to help me with my project, right? I've been researching interview techniques. Absolutely, Serafina said. I brought some sample question frameworks that might help. Dinner was lively, full of talk about school projects, work stuff, and weekend plans. Joseph watched his kids interact with Serafina. Alina eager to learn, Caspian just enjoying her playfulness. It felt right in a way he couldn't fully explain. Later, after the kids went upstairs to do homework, Joseph and Serafina sat on the back porch watching the stars. Rex was dozing at their feet, twitching in his sleep. Alice called today, Joseph said, breaking the silence. She's thinking about a job in Chicago. Serafina looked at him. How do you feel about that? Relieved? It'd make a clean break, more space between us. He reached for her hand. Room for what's next. And what's next, Joseph Hayes? She intertwined her fingers with his. He smiled, a genuine soft smile. Still figuring that out, but I know who I want beside me while I do. Serafina smiled back. Good answer. The stars kept dancing above them, unchanged, constant. Joseph breathed in deep, feeling the past lift more every day. He wasn't the man who'd stood frozen in the doorway, hearing Alice's betrayal. That man was broken, hardened, cold. The man sitting here now was softer, shaped by what had happened, but not ruled by it. The kids weren't the same either. They had scars, sure, but also strength. Alina's sharp mind, Caspian's optimism. They hadn't just survived the mess, they'd grown from it. And then there was Serafina. She'd come into their lives unexpectedly, but she brought something new, a reminder that there's more to life than holding on to old pain and grudges. Moving forward wasn't just about leaving the past behind, it was about building something fresh. Penny for your thoughts, she said, nudging his shoulder. Joseph squeezed her hand, just thinking that life has a funny way of leading you where you need to be, even if it's through hell to get there. Poetic, she teased. And true. They sat in silence, the night getting deeper. The future wasn't written yet, but it felt full of possibility.